Alright, let's talk about the theory stuff first. And heads up, I am under the weather once again. Sorry, since moving back to California, it's like my immune system is absolute garbage. So, we've asked about why is it the flat 5 thing only happens sometimes. So, let's actually, let me make a little change here. Yeah, let me change it like this. This was the, no, this was the first one. I think this is the first one you sent over. Yes. Okay. So actually the first one that you had sent over was better than the revised one, or the one you sent over again today. So, like when we're looking at the key C, we're looking at these numbers here. So basically, along with like interval numbers, or like using the major scale to list your interval numbers. So that's 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can lay that all out on a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or laid out on one string, I should say. Each one of those positions, each one of those notes or positions, various things can branch out from that. So when we were looking at mode stuff, and we talked about it's the distance from one note to the next that determines what the interval is. When we deviate from the major scale, then we have like flats and sharp intervals. And we will get more into that. So a little bit of that's happening here. So when, like all those scale shapes that you're learning, when you look at the modes information, and again, we're going to get more in depth with this, so we're going to keep coming back to these things again and again to help it stick better and better. So your Ionian mode consists of the interval structure. Let me change over to this sound so I can play at the same time. So I'm just going to play it down here because it's really the same. The idea is to kind of look at your shapes, or the mode shapes, whatnot. So I'm going to play an A Ionian, or an A major scale. So again, we just number each note, just nothing fancy, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we continue going, we're back to the 1. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So that's just, it's the same note an octave higher. Okay? So again, when we deviate from that, things change a little bit, and we get different sounds. Now, I'm going to go through all of the 7 modes that come from the major scale. And I say that because if I say all the modes, that's not correct. Just all the modes in general. Because harmonic minor is a scale with something a little different going on. And each note within the harmonic minor scale is the root note of another mode. So there are 7 notes that make harmonic minor. That means there are 7 modes that come with harmonic minor. Hungarian minor, I like that, the scale. It's got some really interesting sounds, I think. Well, that's made of 7 notes. That also has 7 modes. So basically, for what you and I are working on for a while now, so you get a good hang of it all, we're just going to be working with the 7 modes from the major scale. So if you ever hear someone say all the modes, they're not talking about all the modes. They're most likely talking about all the modes from the major scale. And they just leave that part out because it sounds better to say, this is how you know all the modes. Anyway, I can go on a rant, go on a tangent for quite a while on that. But anyway, so the modes from the major scale. Ionian first, that's again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. The next mode in order So just going from one note or one mode to the next. So the second mode in order, Dorian. So we flat the third, and then 1, 2, 3. Hang on, 1, 2, 3. The flat the third. So flat 3, 4, 5, 6. Flat the 7, and then to the 1. So basically, we take the third note, flat it. We take the seventh note, flat it. We got Dorian. So the important thing here right now, because this is pertaining to the answer of the fifth chords, both Ionian and Dorian have the 1. Of course, they all have the 1. They also have a perfect fifth. So Ionian has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Dorian has 1, 2, flat third, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Phrygian has 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. And that's okay if you're not following all the extra interval stuff right now. The important thing is hearing the 1 and the 5. Lydian has 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Mixolydian has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Aeolian, the natural minor scale, has 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. And now the seventh mode. The seventh mode. 7. Position number 7 has this. 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5. Diminished fifth or flat 5. Flat 6, flat 7, 1. The seventh position has a flat 5. So when we're going through those modes, like kind of in order, as you learn them, fifth chord, fifth chord. And I'm basically just starting on each note right now in key, just going up one after the next, playing 5 notes up, and making the power chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, power chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just a regular fifth chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 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 regular fifth chord. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, diminished fifth chord. So it only happens in the seventh position. Only in the seventh position for what you and I are currently working with. So that's why it only happens there. So scrolling down here, and I want you to change this stuff on your guitar profile after listening to this description and explanation. And the reason I want you to change it instead of me typing in the correct thing and sending it back over to you is I do believe if you put it in yourself, you're going to have a much better chance of remembering it, okay? So, yeah, the B flat 5, or the B5 flat 5 is what I should say, because that's what it is. So it's got a B note and an F. So an F is a flat 5. So a big confusing thing people, or a thing that's very confusing for a lot of people, is separating like what an interval is and like where you're at within a key. So sometimes people, well, I'm trying to think, I don't want to say too many things about what people are confused about, because if it's not going to be a point of confusion for you, my saying too many things might just make it worse. So let me put it like this. Anytime you are figuring out intervals, and we will be doing this stuff, you always look at the root note of the chord or mode as 1, as position 1. So even though this is, like, say, chord number 2, in order to determine the interval structure, we still look at the D note as interval 1. Same thing here. Starting with the B note. Yes, the B note is the 7th note in the key of C. But when we determine what the interval structure is for the chord, B is interval 1. Okay? So remember, big thing to remember here. All the intervals come from the major scale. And when we deviate from that major scale, that's when we get sharp and flat intervals. That's always the case. Always. So, a B5, if it was a standard B5, such as in the key of G, you play a B major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there you go. That determines what, or tells you what that fifth interval is, which is an F sharp. So here we're dealing with an F. So that means we go up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we can also say the note names as well. So like that major scale note naming worksheet you did. B goes to C sharp, D sharp is the 3, E is number 4, or interval 4, so F sharp is the fifth interval. Well, we need a flat 5, so we flat it. So when you flat an F sharp, it goes to F natural. So that's why it's a flat 5 here. So looking ahead, yeah, key G, you nailed it. You got it right. You put the F sharp 5, flat 5, or the F sharp diminished fifth chord at the end in the 7th position. It's exactly what we want. And then, like right there, there's your normal B5 right there. So yeah, it's just using the notes that are in key. And so if we had a normal F sharp 5, it would be this. We'd have an F sharp, C sharp. Of course, another F sharp there. So basically, that's all you need for minimum, the minimum amount of stuff. So again, you count up through the scale to determine these things. So F sharp is the 1, G sharp is the 2, A sharp is the 3, B is your 4th, C sharp is the 5. Well, there is no C sharp in the key of G major. There is a C. So C something is always going to be in that fifth interval spot, and F sharp is the root note, which is kind of what we talked about in that major scale note naming worksheet that you did. So F sharp is the root note, C sharp is always going to be the fifth. So in the key G, we don't have a C sharp, we have a C, so that makes it a flat 5. So scrolling down here, what needs to be changed. So I'll tell you what needs to be changed, but I want you to do it on your end. Oh wait, am I grabbing the wrong one? Hold on a second, because that ended up being the same. Hang on, I thought I had another file from you. Hold on. Maybe I want this one. You know, I think what happened was I looked at what you sent over and I saw that the original error was still there, and I totally missed that. But I don't think you had it the first time. No, you didn't. So I think I might know what the confusion was, because I said refer to the key of C for your answer. So what I meant was refer to you gotta look at the Roman numeral stuff. So, because yeah, in the key of C, you know, the example I put in there for you, we had the B5 flat 5. But that's only going to be happening in the key of C. So the clue was 7, the Roman numeral 7. And then you correctly did it for the key of G. So every time you had the Roman numeral 7 shown, you put in the F, or the diminished fifth, or the 5 flat 5 chord. And then when you got to the key of F, you stopped doing that. So right there, like right here, you can see that B flat is in the key. So you correctly have all the root notes laid out. So in an E5 chord, the fifth interval is a B. B is not in the key of F. We can't have a B in order to stay 100% in key. So you need to flat that. You need to flat this. You need to flat that. So basically change the 14 to a 13. This 2 down to a 1. And that's what needs to be changed. So all of the chords you have under the Roman numeral 7, you got to flat those 5s. And then when you go to input the chord name, just hit A to input the chord name as well. Or again, and you can just type in the rest. You can also just delete it, delete the chord name, and then hit A again after deleting it. And it should auto-generate to the correct name if you inputted the notes correct this time. So that's the thing to change. Position number 7 for your power chords needs to have the flat 5 shown. We can't have a regular power chord in that position and have it still be 100% in key. I hope all that makes sense. Definitely let me know if you have questions about it. Okay. The new number 1, rhythmic once again with the legato. And very good to hear and see that you were just flying through that one for last time. So, yeah, starts off tough and then gets a lot easier, right? Or at least that's what we want it to be. So, we are sticking with just reading the notation with as little ties as possible. This way, it's much easier to read all the legato stuff. So, big things to remember is just, matching things up to the grid when counting it all. So there's your quarter note. That takes up 2 eighth notes. That's 1 eighth note. So obviously that'll take up 1 eighth note thing. So remember, all of this, all 8 things here represent 1 eighth note. So, trying to think if I should talk about another thing. No. Well, I want to see how this goes, because you've done a really good job of playing these things before. Maybe not with, we haven't done legato like this, but you've done the chord strumming and the single note stuff just fine. So, yeah. The only time we have a tied note to be concerned with is here. So, I would love to see Guitar Pro have this slur mark go across everything, but it doesn't work that way. So, basically the only note you pick is that. Everything else is hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides. So, if you need to, work on one bar at a time, totally fine. You want to practice counting it first to get the rhythm really down. That's a great idea. If you do 1 bar or 2 bars at a time, make sure you pick the first note. So let's say you're working on bar number 2. Even though you're supposed to slide into that note, breaking it up into individual bars, pick the first note. And make sure that you end on like the very next note of the next bar. So if you need to work on 1 bar at a time, that's a good amount to work on right there. It's a good place to end. You could argue that that's a good place to end too, but I like working on the transition. I think that's important. So I would recommend working on that as an individual thing. Now this, I would go to that. So this way we're ending on a downbeat. Might be kind of odd adding on an upbeat and working something up like that. And then you can just work on that little part at the end too. So let's get into it. 60 beats per minute. And of course there's no sound. Of course. Let's get that fixed. Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and sure your volume knob's all the way up, because yes, you will have notes kind of fading away, especially at the slow speeds here. But if you're doing it right, doing the technique correctly, you should still hear everything. 120. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oof. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 4. And 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And then 2, 3, 4. And done. 180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And good old 240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, sweep picking. Well, you mentioned the descending portion is the most troublesome, so let's focus on that. So we'll go back to the standard, work it up in fives, and then add in those repeats at the end. So, I'm trying to think if there's much to add here. I don't think there is. Let's get into it. So really just, I like starting with the hammer-on pull-off at first. I feel like it kind of helps to set you up for all those upstrokes, just the same way you would be playing the shape normally. Ugh. This is going to be interesting. Feel like there's like sludge in my arms right now. Alright, 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's something to talk about. In case you didn't notice what I just did with the picking hand. After hitting that last note, you know what? I'm going to add something in here real quick to make it more obvious what to do. There we go. So we are going to intentionally mute the strings for an eighth note there. So once you hit that last note of the bar, cut it off, so this way you can get your hand in position to pick the high E string again. Now for the repetition stuff, you're going to do the same thing. So currently, we don't have that eighth note rest here. That's because when we do go to the final note, let's just let that ring out. I think it sounds better. But when you're doing the repetitions, yeah, you'll want to have that eighth note rest at the end of this bar to help you get back to the beginning. Okay. 120 coming up. 1, 2. Whew, yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. $180. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. $240. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Try the repeats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't like that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. once you really get going with it. That's something you can do. It's kind of a fun thing. Just go for it. No metronome. Just try and go fast. See what happens. You might land a couple every now and then and kind of get a feel for how it goes when you're playing fast. Of course, if it's just too dang sloppy, we don't want to practice it like that. You know, just kind of go for it. Sometimes it comes out pretty neat. Okay. That's right. You said you're making progress with the scale stuff. That's good. This is the next chord progression thing. So same idea as last time. Like put on a drum track and play through these things. There. So yeah, we got the diminished fifth happening for this one. Kind of like the idea of if you can find a drumming track that's not too exhausting or too fast, doing like a black metal picking thing because of the diminished fifth in there. I think it's pretty neat. And don't worry about being super, picky, pun, or don't worry about being picky with being accurate of like I'm only hitting this one string, because in that style of playing, having it all blend together like that, it suits the style, it suits the genre, So yeah, just make sure you get through each progression and just pay attention to how you're moving from one chord to the next, because it's the same setup as last time. You got this the 3-1-7-5 progression, starting on the low E string. So for all three keys laid out to start, you go up a string over 3 frets, down 1 fret, down a string and up a fret, and that happens with all of them here. So you start down here, up here, boom, 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 like if there was a fret back here, and it moves in that pattern. Whoop. Just kind of visualizing that pattern. That's the thing. So this way you can see how it's, we're just taking a pattern and just moving it around to change keys. And that's so much about what happens, in music. So improv was sounding good. I really like the tapping thing you put in there. That was neat. So to help you get more used to, you did say at first it was odd playing like 2 shapes at once there. I know you're still getting kind of used to your scales or memorizing it there. So I'm going to try this idea here. I didn't write it out, so pay attention. There's like shapes within these scales that I find really, really useful to just like play really quick. So we'll stay in the same key, but here's what I want you to think about. So like that A minor scale, it starts off with the A, B, C, D, E, F. Well, it's got your whole step, half step, whole step, half step. And then right after that, you have your half step, whole step. So you can do a lot within that shape right there. And then you got the octave of that. So basically that starts on the 5th fret. So 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. Start the same pattern here. 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10. 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12. It's the same notes, 1 octave higher. And then then you'll start it one more octave higher. So 10, 12, 13, and then 12, 13, 15. And then you can go all the way up to that A note right there as well. So, here's the thing to memorize. I want you to follow along. So you got your 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. Same notes, one octave higher. Starting on the D string, you got 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12. Then, one more octave. You got 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 13. 12, 13, 15, 12, 13, 15, and then you can hit that 17th fret there to finish that up, or use that as part of the pattern. Solo in that. Do some improvisation in that thing. We can definitely do some tapping within that too. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, try incorporating that stuff in your improv this week. 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. So twice, 5, 7, 8, 7, 8, 10. And then an octave higher, 7, 9, 10, 9, 10, 12. One more octave higher, 10, 12, 13, 12, 13, 15. And then as an option, that A note way up here. So covering several octaves with that pattern. And then that's something I do. But I do like the fast stuff. I'll stay in patterns like that because they're just easy to visualize and move all over the place. All right, lots of info this week. So any questions, please let me know. Take notes, write them down, whatever questions you might have, and just send them on over. And yeah, see you again next week in your new videos.